Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land you job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hello, everyone. I have with me today career transition coach and resume writer, Lezlie Garr. She is a self-proclaimed word nerd. I love that. Accidental entrepreneur with a diverse background ranging from high school music teacher to radio sales, ad sales to career services, and lots of stops in between. As a certified resume writer and a career transition coach, she helps high achievers and go-getters just to cut through the BS and find clarity and confidence that they need to be happy in their careers. So Lezlie, I am so excited to have you. I remember listening to a podcast that you were on where you talked about how you were an accidental entrepreneur, which is what I am as well. And I love what you're doing on LinkedIn. So I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Virginia. I am really thrilled to be here. You have been one of the group of people that I really have followed and learned so much from over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been an entrepreneur. I saw somewhere that you use that term accidental entrepreneur as well. And I really, felt that connection. I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel. And the funny thing is I feel like a lot of professionals now, entrepreneurs or not, a lot of professionals have sort of a non-linear career path like I have and like you have. And it's interesting to see that starting to become more of a trend. And it was really neat to see that you're using that term accidental entrepreneur like me. I really like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I hope that term gives comfort to people that you can start your own business, even if it wasn't your lifelong dream. I mean, there's certainly people that have said, I want to own a company from the get-go. I was not one of those people. It sounds like you weren't either. So you can come to this in a variety of different ways.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me the weaves that you went through to get to your role today.
Okay, so I mentioned nonlinear, and that's definitely sort of what my path was. So, like you, I definitely did not think I want to start my own business from the get-go. That was never anywhere near what I thought I wanted. So I actually started out as early as high school wanting to be a band director, a high school band director. I wanted to go to school for music education, which I did. And then I wanted to teach in high schools. I wanted to teach marching band and concert band and just kind of do everything involved with that. And to be where I am today, I know is not anywhere sort of close to that. But I've always had that desire to help people. And I think that that's what helped lead me here. So I got towards the end of my music education degree and really realized that it wasn't for me. So I actually dropped out of college and went into anything that I could sort of possibly find. I left college in 2008, which was right when, the last sort of economic downturn happened.
That's when I started this company.
Right. So there weren't a lot of really opportunities that I could see in front of me based on what my background was. But I had always worked through college doing restaurant work, which has a lot to do with people skills and sales. So I got into a little bit of some sales roles. I worked in a radio advertising company for a while. I did that for about 9 months. If that tells you anything about how good of a fit that was. I worked for a healthcare company doing their call center. It was a lot of customer service, but it was also a little bit of sales, trying to, sell a certain product or service or something like that. And I really realized with all of these different stops I was making that I was missing that part about helping people that I loved so much about teaching. And I just randomly found a position in the Career Center for a career college. So it's one of those proprietary colleges. It's not like a university or state school or anything like that, but it was really geared towards helping people get the education they needed to turn around and get a better job. And the position that I found was to work in their career center and help these students right before they graduated or right after they graduated to write resumes and prep for interviews. And that was the beginning of how I got here. I did that for 3 or so years at different schools and wound up at a school that was bought out and closed down the campus that I was at. And that was when my partner, I was super stressed. I said, oh God, I got to update my resume. I got to find a new job. And my partner said, well, why don't you take a look at maybe a solo venture? I had been doing some resumes on the side and working on that. And so that's what I did. And that's how I wound up where I am today.
Wise partner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I ever would have had that thought, somebody else had to say it before it gave me permission to even think about it, and I think that's a good thing about just bouncing ideas off of people. And that certainly is what helped me to, have that courage and to even think of myself in that way of being able to do that.
Well, and so many people I found write resumes, help people on the side. Never, the light bulb didn't for me, doesn't go off that you could do this for a living. It never, I wrote resumes for 20 years before I knew that anyone paid you to do it. I was completely clueless. Wow. Maybe not 20 years, but a long, long time. Yeah. So
sure.
Because I'm older than you. So, all right. So you work with career changers. Is it career changers primarily, would you say? I know it's people testing the job search waters, but what's your main niche?
That is an excellent question. And it's actually a little bit in a limbo right now. So started off the year 2020 going, yes, I definitely want to niche down to working with just career changers. And I got the Certified Career Transition Coach certification as a lead into that. And right when COVID hit,
pre-COVID, this was my plan.
Right when COVID hit was right when I was implementing all the changes on my website and coming out into the public with this new niche. And it's certainly what I have been super interested in throughout my career so far, and working with these clients is definitely a strong drive for me. But because of how much change the job market has undergone now, I really started getting an uptick in people who are contacting me who weren't career changers, but who were in that sort of non-linear place of, my background is kind of scattered, or, I don't quite know what I want to do. So they were like sort of half career changers, you know? And so because the changes in the market seem like they're going to be a lot more long lasting than, maybe we were hoping initially. I think I'm definitely not turning away from that niche. That definitely is still going to be a focus on people that I serve, but I really want to get professions or the helping professions, because those are the ones that I have found myself most drawn to. And helping them make sure that their next career move is in line with what they want, and is in line with really what makes them happy and lets them get back to the work that feels fulfilling and that helps other people. So I want to help people, I want to help them get into roles where they can help people.
It's interesting because I've had this business now for several years, and I fell into career change because of 2008. And sort of like now, it was not people saying, let me just test the waters and try something different. It's, oh gosh, I have to pivot. I have this really nonlinear career and I need to help need for someone to connect the dots, because ultimately I would like to get somewhere that makes me happy. But right now, I'm not sure what that looks like. So, and I'm working, that's what exactly. I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of that now. It's sort of career change as a result of crisis versus, big job search planning, which is what I was doing, pre-COVID. So the people that you're working with, that are testing the job search waters or making that semi-career change, do you see a couple of challenges that are common to them?
I do. I feel like, especially right now with that sort of desperation in the air a little bit, with things being difficult and with people acting a little bit more from a place of challenge and a place of fear. There's a lot of
anxiety right now.
There's a lot of anxiety. That's exactly right. And I think it can be difficult for job seekers to step outside of themselves and sort of take an objective look at what their unique identifying value is. I think a lot of people that I'm talking to are getting very caught up in, I need a job. I want to make myself as available as possible. I want to make my resume appeal to as broad of an audience as possible. And I think that the trick is understanding that actually puts you oftentimes in a weaker position rather than a stronger position. With so many job seekers out there, right? You gotta elevate yourself. You gotta stand out. And the only way you can do that is by getting really gut level clear about what your value is, how that differentiates you from other people. And especially for these job seekers who have that nonlinear background, at this point, I think that is a real strength that you can, if you can have the discipline or have someone help you to sit down and look back at your background and figure out how each of these pieces together makes you more uniquely qualified for the types of roles that you're, targeting. That is how you're going to help set yourself apart. Yeah. And I think a lot of times job seekers want to go the other way. So that's a big challenge right now. And it's a big topic of conversation when I talk to job seekers, is like, well, okay, you could go for any number of these jobs, but what really is it? Where do your strengths lie the most? And where's your drive? And being a little bit more selective can help you rather than hurt you, which is maybe a little counterintuitive, but.
Yeah. And I find, tell me if you agree, that when I have heard someone's career story, and like you, I interview people and I hear their whole career story, communicating back the common threads that I see throughout someone's career help them to, like you said, identify their unique differentiating value. And then they go, they think that their talents can go in a number of different ways. But when you sort of show them a common set of themes, then you can show them that, this is how we're targeting, this is how we're positioning you, and it makes them more targeted. I didn't say that very well.
No, I totally agree with you, though. I absolutely understand and have that same experience of, just hearing them just talk. That's what I try to get clients to do, is just, I ask them a question, but the more they can just talk it out with me, I can pick up those threads. And repeating it back to them is often like, oh, they go, wow, I hadn't, thought of it that way. So
and like
that's really powerful.
It's so hard to step aside to be able to do that, talking to a stranger or someone and having them see it from a higher level view, I think is really, really helpful.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree.
So what is it that your clients are most surprised by now that they're entering this market? And maybe this is a post-COVID discovery, maybe not.
I think some of the biggest surprises come when we talk about the complexities of the job search and hiring process. So a lot of times I'll work with clients who are coming back into a job search for the first time in 10, 15, 20 years. But even those who it's been maybe only 4 or 5 or 6 years,
right.
Things have changed so rapidly. Yeah. So when I have a client who, just for instance, if I sent them a first draft and we're going over it and they're asking questions and somehow it leads to an explanation of, what an applicant tracking system is and how it works and where it fits in with the whole process of job searching. That conversation usually is met with, even for people who at least know the term ATS or applicant tracking system, to hear the complexities of that and how it works. It's met with a lot of, wow, I had no idea, it was this, or talking about being active in your network and utilizing LinkedIn in these new ways and all the different ways that you can sort of incorporate LinkedIn into your job search strategy or other networking into your job search strategy. So many people are just surprised at how complex it is, how many moving parts there are, and how much there is to think about.
Yeah, I agree. Even people that are natural networkers, people in sales that, that have always gotten their job through people in networking, the shift in platform, it moved from a Rolodex to a website, or, a social media platform where a lot of those discussions are beginning. It adds a layer of complexity that they didn't have to deal with. So yeah, I concur. So this
Absolutely.
is one of my favorite questions. Is there something that drives you nuts or most nuts when it comes to job seeker or client mishaps? What makes you bang your head against the wall?
I think more than anything, it's not necessarily a client or it is a job seeker mishap, but it's not their fault. It's a symptom of the problem, and the problem being the continuous circulation of outdated and just plain bad advice for resumes or, something in the job search. I'm baffled that the advice of your resume has to be 1 page is still just out there and continuously sort of being circulated. There are just pieces like that to this day, I will see a client or, I'll be reviewing a resume for a potential client for the first time or just, trying to help out a friend or anything like that. And they're either asking me questions about things or I see stuff in their resume where it's just obvious that this bad information is still just sort of being circulated. I wish there was a way to, blanket clear the air and have it be a little more transparent or I don't know, but that probably drives me the most nuts because no, go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing 1,000,000%. It's an unregulated industry. Anybody can hang the sign on the door and say that they do this for a living. And so that's what makes it great to be able to enter into, but it also means that there's a lot of confusing info out there.
Yep, I agree. And that's why I am happy to have found, our little group that we have and have sort of cultivated on LinkedIn is because I see you and so many other people every day trying your best. And I'm trying my best to get good information out there and just to be helpful and to debunk some of these myths that keep rolling around out there. So,
and that's one of the reasons why like you, I have people like you in my network, but a big part of my network are people that are LinkedIn gurus. The platform changes every other minute. And I can't keep up with it by myself. And so I so rely on people that is their niche so that I can make sure to be giving my clients the newest and up-to-date information. I never want to give my own thoughts as opinion. I want everything to be based in research and data that other people have done. And I get to benefit from learning from them.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is so smart. I think, for anybody, entrepreneur, job seeker, whoever you are, surrounding yourself by people who know more than you about the stuff that's important in your niche, in your career, in your industry, whatever, that is so valuable and really just an important part of keeping up your own development and your own knowledge base. I love that you do that. And I think that I encourage that for anybody, really, is to just surround yourself with people who know more than you about stuff that's important in your space.
It takes a village. Absolutely.
It does.
So talk to me, I want to talk about these semi-career changers or full-on career changers. What's your best piece of advice in terms of helping someone get started when they are thinking about making a career move? When they're in that exploratory phase?
I think the very first thing that needs to happen is the decision about what direction you're targeting. Before you sit down and try and write your resume, you have to know what you're writing it, what audience you're writing it for. And that's what a lot of the work that I do with my career change clarity coaching is that very early stage process of what I know I'm not happy in what I'm doing now, but what the heck should I, go into, or, what's out there and things like that. So for some people, it's maybe not an easy process, but a short one. That wouldn't necessarily be my coaching clients, but for some people out there who are career changers or thinking about a career change, they either know right away or can drill down. Some people come to me having that already set up. I know I want to move into this career. Great. Boom. We can move into resume work. But the early stages of that decision making can be a lot more intensive and take a little bit more time. But I would say that's the very first thing that needs to happen is be clear about the target jobs that you want to pursue, and make sure not only do you know what's required for those jobs, but also really clearly know how your skills align with that, understand how to sort of translate your language if it needs to be translated from one thing to another. It's just being clear about the direction you're going and what value you provide towards that direction is really the first step.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes people will come to us and they want to go in a couple of directions. And sometimes, like sales and marketing, for instance, or communications and marketing, I find it's not as challenging to write a set of targeted documents for that scope because they're so similar. And oftentimes those roles are hybrid. But if someone says, and I'm being facetious, I either want to be an orthodontist or a yoga instructor, those are so disparate that you have to be clear because you cannot write one resume for one versus the other. So what about the person so that's the person that is thinking about the career move. What about the person who is job hunting and it is not going well? How do you advise them in terms of helping them regroup?
Have to do is to figure out what's we talked about how there are a lot of moving parts in the job search. So you have to figure out, okay, if you are putting your resume out there and you're getting good reaction or response to that, but then once you get to the interview phase, you're not doing very well. That may be that your interview skills need to be bumped up, or your interpersonal skills or your communication skills need some work. If you are putting your resume out there, say it's posted on several different job boards and you're getting a lot of people contacting you about it, but those roles aren't in line with the types of roles that you actually want to target, well, then that means that your resume is probably written well from the standpoint of those types of jobs that you are being contacted for, but it's not written well for the jobs that you're actually wanting to target. And then if you're applying for jobs and just not hearing back at all, maybe your resume really needs a full overhaul. So I think the first thing that I would say is to figure out which piece of the puzzle isn't quite fitting and isn't bringing you the return that you need. And then I would say the second thing is to set yourself up for success all around. A lot of times people only focus on their job search when they're focusing on their job search. And I have really started to see value for myself in cultivating my social media followings so that I'm following people I want to learn from. And I'm starting to sort of see the connection between that and job seekers. If job seekers can really sit down and go, well, okay, I'm going to start following some recruiters and some resume writers and some career coaches, or people who are putting out free information on the daily on LinkedIn or other platforms, that can be a very sort of almost passive way to learn more. That way, anytime you're logging in, your feed may populate with some good advice for your job search. And why not, drip feed yourself some positive, full information when you're maybe taking a break or just scrolling through. Like, you may as well put some good information in there and not just all the, maybe mind-numbing stuff that you might see otherwise. So, and I actually have a great example of that. Just this morning, someone posted on LinkedIn and tagged me and a few other people because he had just gotten a job. He was just offered a job. I guess he had been in a job search for about 6 or 8 weeks, and he had just taken to following advice and following resume writers and job job search professionals and career professionals. And he posted today, I just want to say thank you to these people who put out this great information. And that to me is just proof positive that you don't necessarily have to spend every moment of your day on your job search, but you can help yourself out by incorporating a little bit of that knowledge into your passive social feeds and things like that. So I think if you can set yourself up for success, that's really important.
No, and that is so true. There's the learning, we were talking about how job search has changed dramatically even in the last 4 years. If you can populate your feed with some people that talk about it day in and day out like us, that learning curve when you do go to hit the ground running will be so much shorter. And you're not likely to go, be in a position where you are job searching without success because you understand what's changed and know how to get started.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That is just one of those really smart things that can kind of separate, the average from the great is like, what are you doing in your off time? How, it goes back to what you surround yourself with, what knowledge are you surrounding yourself with? What are you populating your social feeds with? All of that stuff. And yeah, I talk a lot about future you, be nice to future you by doing a little bit of extra work now as present you, and then
I love
a
that.
lot of times when I do that for myself, I'll think back and say, thanks, past Lezlie, or sometimes when I don't do something, I'll sarcastically say, thanks, past Lezlie, but I think it's important to think about, be nice to future you and do something good for future you today as present you.
I love that. And you can, job seekers who use LinkedIn can follow certain hashtags to be able to train their feed in addition to following certain people.
Yes, perfect. I'm so glad you said that. That's absolutely true. And that's definitely a way, again, if you just spend 10 or 15 minutes going, yep, this one, then forevermore, your feed will start to show you some of that. And then the more you engage with it, the even more you'll see. So it's definitely a helpful tool that you can use.
So one, let's shift gears a little bit. This is a question I often ask, but it's become, in the last few months, it's just become more relevant than ever. There's always been talk about discrimination when it comes to hiring practices, age, ethnicity, gender. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic. It's such a big topic, but what advice do you have for clients trying to overcome those barriers to entry?
Absolutely. And that is a completely valid concern. It is absolutely a barrier to entry and can come up in so many different situations and ways. I call them isms, dealing with any of the isms that are out there. It can be a big mental barrier. And that is the thing that I try to help people overcome. It's not saying that it's not true and that it's not out there, but I try to help clients not let that stop them from trying, and not let it be a defeating sort of fact. It's a fact of life, but let's work on ways that we can overcome it and work around it. So the first thing that I talk about with clients is just trying to let them know that even though, yes, it's a thing, it absolutely doesn't have to be a deal breaker or something that stops you from getting where you want to go. You just have to figure out how to work around it. And I think one of the smartest ways to work around that, or the potential for that, is to focus your job search more on the people around you and making connections and networking and trying to get recommended or referred into a role, as opposed to just being one of however many other hundreds or thousands of strangers who are submitting online. And that's big talk. It's important to diversify your job search anyway, and to not only focus on applying online, but for situations where you fear there may be a more personal barrier or reason. Yeah, an ism, exactly, where you feel there may be an ism at play. Just try to eliminate that entirely by trying to work through people, talk to people, build up your network more, build up your visibility more with people who are more likely to be in line with you and not have that ism crop up. Another thing you can do is try to target companies that are diverse and that value inclusion and equity and diversity as a part of their mission and their vision and their values. I think that's another way to help alleviate some of that potential for isms to come into play.
I agree. And a quick LinkedIn search looking at headshots will quickly tell you if a company who states that they value inclusion and equity are really practicing that. But to your earlier point, you're right. People tend to recruit people that they know. and like there's more comfort there. That's why referrals are so powerful. So if you can work through people, like you said, to build up your visibility and have those people be in a position where they will champion you, to me, it sort of makes the ism from being, yes, it's a thing, but it's not the thing. It helps to mitigate that. I love that advice.
Yep, absolutely.
So I always ask this question: say someone comes to you, they have 5 minutes, they've grabbed you at a party and say, I need to go job search. What are, one or two things that I absolutely have to have before I embark on this? What say you to that?
If the question really were, what one or two things do I have to have before I get started? I would say a strong resume and a strong LinkedIn profile. But if I could add something that had more to do with setting yourself up in a good position as well, I would say also a strong network. I would say, and I know how frustrating it is to be a job seeker who doesn't have a strong network, and for somebody to say, well, you need a strong network, and then to just feel sort of defeated. Well, I don't have one right now. So I guess, that, I'm out on that one and I can't. But what I would encourage anyone to do that hears that advice and doesn't have a strong network is to just start somewhere, because again, future you is going to be out there, and maybe you might hear somebody else say that advice a year from now, and you can go, yes, I do have a strong network, So I think if it's just about what do I absolutely have to have, I think you absolutely have to have a good presence and a way for people to see what value you bring and what you do. So I think a resume and a LinkedIn profile, but really to set yourself in a good place, having a strong network of people that know you and like you and have confidence in you and can, even sometimes just talking to people and having a conversation can help you unlock thoughts in your head or help them connect the dots and go, oh, you know what? I did hear somebody the other day, or one of my friends over at this company mentioned this. And so it's so important to keep up that connection and communication as much as possible.
And to your point, to that person who feels like that they're at such a disadvantage because they have not cultivated a large network, you don't need 50,000 people in your network. If you have 5 really strong people that can then introduce you to others, that foundation, I feel like it's easy to get the foundation started. And it can lead much further than spending that time instead on applying online because you don't have a foundational network.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that with networking, it really is more a marathon than a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about long-term connection and building strong relationships over time, and not necessarily about, well, I'm going to, send out 200 messages to people today, right now, and by next week I'll be hired,
right.
That's not it either.
No.
It's about sort of that mutual benefit and adding value yourself, as well as, hopefully getting value from some of these people in your network.
Agree. So I want to close this out by asking you, what is next on the horizon for you? And if they let us out of our houses completely in a post-COVID world, what do you see in terms of your business?
Oh, in terms of my business, I've actually got a lot of exciting things coming up. I am really trying to provide more value to more people. I love the one-on-one work, and I'm definitely not getting rid of that by any means, but I am branching more into video, which I know is sort of a big talk, and a lot of people are branching into it. And I think it's really important. And I honestly think the stay-at-home stuff helped some people sort of jump into it. I think it helped me jump into it a little bit more. It's just like, well, I'm doing these Zoom calls and that's pretty much the same as, sitting in front of a camera.
So and it gets you get over how bad you think you look on camera. That's been my takeaway from Zoom.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I actually, with September coming up in September, really having a strong focus on revamping your resume, I'm going to be doing some webinars in September. So you'll be seeing my face a lot around on LinkedIn and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to do a webinar at basically a day and for different job topics. And that'll be earlier in the month. And then later, actually do another webinar that dives kind of extensively into resume specifically. And then the back half of September, I actually will be putting out a resume writing course. So it'll be an online digital course. It's called Resume Redo Masterclass. So that will be available in the back half of September. And then early October, October 1st through 3rd, I actually was invited to be a speaker for an RVer summit. So for those of you who don't know,
what's that?
I am. So I'm a full-time RV traveler. And I've been doing that for about 3 years. And there are tons of different groups that try to put out information for other people to learn how to be full-time RVers or to learn how to take their business on the road or start a business on the road. So there is a virtual summit called the Make Money in RV Virtual Summit. And they reached out and said, hey, we've never had anybody talk about building a resume writing business and running that on the road. Would you be interested? And so I said, heck yeah. So I have that as well coming up. So a lot of video,
very productive. Yes. In your stay at home, I'm impressed. That's so exciting.
Thank you. I feel like this year has been sort of a step up for me in the business and making more connections and getting to do more awesome things like podcast interviews. Yeah. Thank you again so much. So I'm excited. I'm definitely, on that edge of like nervous about doing more video and nervous about putting these things out there, but I'm also really excited about it. And I think it's that good kind of nervous that means I'm doing the right thing and that it's going to push me in the right direction. Yeah.
That is exciting. So I have shared your LinkedIn page and your Resume Lezlie website. Are those the two best ways for people to keep up and follow you, or is there another place as well that you'd like to share?
That's it. Those are the best places to find me. So that would be the way to go.
Perfect. Well, Lezlie, thank you so much. I love what you had to say. I feel like you've given really actionable, but sort of hopeful, inspirational advice to people that are, perhaps struggling to figure out what their next move needs to be when they really maybe weren't planning on needing a next move.
Gosh, that's absolutely true. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to come on. I really like the thoughtful questions that you had. So, a million thanks to you. It has been a joy to talk to you. I really enjoyed it. So, thank you very much.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's SCIM online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.